I've been incredibly lucky on this YouTube career to visit some beautiful places, some really sunny places, but do you know what? I've never been to the Isle of Man until now. The weather hasn't played ball, but that hasn't stopped me enjoying the new version of the Skoda Octavia RS. And in a combi trim, it's just the perfect car for dads everywhere who still want to remember the good old days of their hot hatches. The facelift version of the Octavia RS now has 265 brake horsepower, 20 up on the previous model. A little bit of a different face on it with different headlights, some interior differences on the trim of the car also, but still in this Phoenix colour, which is the best colour in an RS. Terms and conditions apply. The Mamba colour is quite interesting as well. You've got the roof rails for the family holidays. You've got a bit of the black trim options going on. Aero wheels on these cars now. You can obviously pull them out, they look better, but leave them on when you're ordering the car because it will save you a few quid. And then you have the boot that has all you'll ever need. There's a bit more black styling cues across the back windscreen. There is a wiper, of course, some black lettering across the back, and 640 litres in the combi version, or 600 litres in the fastback version of the Octavia, which really is like so much space for people. All this luggage, there's kind of double stops along the way if you don't want the full cargo cover to be retracted. All the practicality stuff, bit more of an extra boot area underneath here with a bit more storage and tool kits for changing spare tires and spare wheels in the event of that. There is an electric tailgate as well, just to make life a bit easier for you, and the car locks now and you walk away with the key in your pocket. And I've noticed they've also put an RS badge on the front of the car. I'm trying to remember, was that there in the last version or is that a new edition? And of course, it's still the go-to car when you need all the interior space for your family, wide opening doors for the kids. Not that this Octavia will generally make you car sick, but if they do, there's the puke bucket. I'm sure there's an actual better name that Skoda have given that thing. And no RS model will be complete without some red piping and stitching. In the 28 years of its life that the Octavia has been around, the second gen brought diesel, the third 4x4, and the fourth gen PHEV powertrains, and this car was the first engine in terms of a hot hatch in the VW group that got that 1.8 turbo. If you want to watch a retro review of the Mark 1 Octavia RS, you can watch it at the end of this video. So this new version of the Octavia sits a little bit lower. It has a little bit better steering, a little bit more interior trim, and it has an e-diff to help with getting the power down, because 265 brake horsepower through the front wheels is no mean feat. Some of the key differences in this car, some of the trim surrounding the gear selector, for example, is a little bit different. Some minor tweaks to some of the display and the screen of the car, but very much a case of not much has changed really when you dig deep inside this RS. The wonderful supportive bucket seats are still a very welcome present fixture. The armrest, and these are the things that I've tried back to back with the first gen, and as much as that is a beautiful car to get behind the wheel of and reminisce of old times in my 1.8 turbo Golf GTI, the USB-C charging, the heated seats, the extendable armrest, they're all nice features that kind of you go, yeah, I mean, it's nice having these things in the car. But the main point of this extra power version RS is to drive it. So let's take it on some of these iconic roads around the Isle of Man, up via the mountains, and past places such as Joey's Corner, which is a much loved tribute to the late great Joey Dunlop. The reason the car now has 265 brake horsepower is obviously to keep up with the Joneses being the Volkswagen Golf GTI, which is now in Mark 8.5 form. A little bit wet conditions today. I actually flew over here yesterday. I was on the way back from another motoring trip, and the Isle of Man was lit up in gold with the sunset, and I thought to myself, there's no way we'll be that lucky and get that weather again tomorrow, and I wasn't wrong. But getting the power down, pulling out from a junction, that is a little bit hard, under hard acceleration, not seeing any traction lights or anything like that. These roads are obviously fully unrestricted, but not really sure if the weather conditions today cater to that. So there's now a sports exhaust on the car. There's pops and bangs. Skoda say, yes, we have used sound enhancing tricks in the past. We're not doing that on this version of the RS, or at least they're not fully doing it anyway. It's not that long since I've driven the Golf GTI. It's longer, obviously, and it has a bit more weight over the back of it. So is it the more balanced car to drive? Do you know, it possibly is. It definitely sounds good. They've improved that little bit. There's a little bit more torque in the car now. I also feel Skoda have still left a bit in it when it comes to some of the electrical interventions in the car. The e-diff will help you counteract understeer, but you can still plant it, wind it up, hear those rapid gear changes, get a nice thud and rumble out of the back. Very similar acoustically to the GTI, in fact. But then it's also a car that you can make it become, you know, a fairly normal family unit. If you do push it on, people shouldn't be screaming, slow down, or what are you doing? Because you can kind of do the best of both worlds in the car. It is a shame that you can't get it in manual in this version anymore. Same with the GTI. It's a car that, you know, a real driver's car that would benefit from a manual gearbox setup. No problem to it on these corners. What a brilliant route today. These are unrestricted roads that I'm on, just passing Joey's corner in tribute to the late great Joey Dunlop just a few moments ago. And the front wheel drive, when you're pulling away, yes, there's some scrambling for traction, but if I floor it now, little flicker of the traction light coming on, but it's not too bad. It does get the power down, and that burst of acceleration that launches you forward is just a nice reminder of, yeah, there's plenty of power there on tap. Skoda say it'll do 40 miles per gallon. I'm seeing about 13 litres per 100 kilometres for those of you watching back in the Emerald Isle. And the suspension is nice. I mean, these are actually, they're quite good roads for those of you that have been lucky enough to come here and drive on them. So it's not, I don't feel it's putting the suspension to any great deal of hard work today, so it will be actually nicer, and I will, I'm sure, test this car back in Ireland and deal with some of our roads and do a comparison. You feel like these seat bolsters will hold you in to any level of G's that you might be pushing the car through. But look, it's an enjoyable machine. Cars like this are becoming rarer and rarer. It is a lovely sound. There's no doubt about it. There's so much grip. The brakes are very good, actually. Very confident when you push on. Oh, a little bit of slip there out of the car. Flick it through a corner. You can't help but drive these roads and imagine what is going through the mind of some of the bike racers. The record is currently, I think it's 16 minutes for the track, if you want to call it that, and the average speed was 135 miles per hour. You just can't get your head around that. Somebody on two wheels doing those kind of speeds. I wish the weather was better. I'd feel a little bit more confident. I'd say the visibility is 150 feet maybe. It's not great at all, and I don't know these roads. If I was in Dublin, I'd feel a bit more confident. You don't want to get it to a stage where you're going to have to go to something like an Audi RS6 to get petrol enjoyment from a family car, because very few people can afford them. And even still, this is now has turned into quite an expensive car with the emissions, the way we tax vehicles in Ireland. It's certainly a reason why Skoda won't be bringing the fully powered petrol Superb to Ireland, because I think it would start with a 7, and Skoda Ireland are, you know, they know their product, and they're aware that people who are willing to pay that for a Superb are probably few and far between. That will probably also be the case for this. I think if you've had an RS in your life in the past, you'd probably try and justify it, because you know how versatile, they're a bit of a Swiss Army knife type of car. But there's no getting away from the fact that this fun family set of 4 wheels has never been more expensive. And I'll leave you with that thought, actually. So still a huge amount of fun then. Unfortunately, the diesel version of the RS was killed off earlier on this year because of emissions and all the rest of it. So this petrol version, which is the better car to drive when you really are honest about it, it means the Octavia RS is in a space that it hasn't been before when it comes to price. You're not going to see much of a family holiday out of €60,000 for these cars now, and while they offer huge practicality, fun when you want it, good looks, it's a price that I think people will kind of have to get their heads around if they still want to have some 265 brake horsepower school run fun in a Skoda, essentially. Still a cracking car to drive though, all the practicality, just not cheap anymore. Thanks very much for watching.